Councilman Burkhardt, that's all I ever do. On that issue, that agenda item.
Why, thank you,
Yeah,
Councilman.
it's got to start somewhere.
Okay, Cindy, are we ready? Okay, so let me find my glasses over here. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's call the Johnson City Council meeting number 26-03 to order. Cindy, roll call, please.
Councilmember Cope.
Here.
Evans.
Here.
Martin.
Here.
Ready.
Yeah.
Burkhart.
Here.
I want to welcome everyone that is or isn't in the audience this evening. We have a thin crowd. If you're here for an item that is on the agenda, we would ask that you wait for that item to come up. If you're here for an item that is not on the agenda, there will be an opportunity under public communications to address the council. The next item is the Pledge of Allegiance, and it sounds like the person who will be leading us has already been assigned. So Dustin, can you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dustin, just so you know, I usually look for the youngest person in the room. Occasionally, we have a couple of youth that do. I think you are the youngest person. So it worked out just fine. Okay, moving on to the agenda approval. Mike, any changes to the agenda?
No amendments this evening, Mayor.
Council, any changes? With that, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Evans.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Ready.
Yeah.
Burkhart.
Yes.
Cope.
Yes.
Motion passed. Public communications. We have no scheduled public communications this evening. Cindy, do we have anybody online that might want to speak to us? Okay, we'll move on from that then. On to public hearings. We have one public hearing this evening, and that is to continue a public hearing and consider approval of resolution number 26-17, adopting the FY 2027 capital improvement budget and the FY 2027 to FY 2031 capital investment plan of the City of Johnston. And do we need to do anything to continue it?
Yeah, I want to reopen the public hearing.
So do we have a motion to reopen the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Martin.
Yes.
Ready.
Yes.
Burkhart.
Yes.
Cope.
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Motion passed. Dave.
Good evening. So I had like a 45-minute presentation, but after all the good discussion in the work session, I just slashed about half of it, so I don't have that long. But there was a lot of good discussion, so I'm not going to repeat everything that was kind of talked about. Do want to give a highlight of the community investment plan. Our CIP projects are defined as those projects having a cost of at least $10,000 and a life expectancy of at least 15 years, or equipment exceeding $200,000 with a life expectancy of 10 years. So that's why you see like a fire engine, for example, or multiple fire engines in the plan. This 5-year CIP has a total estimated cost of about $76.3 million. So the cheapest thing you're going to take action on tonight, I'm sure, with $21.6 million of that planned in 2027. As was talked about in the work session, the CIP, the funding is really made up of a variety of sources. We tend to focus on the general obligation bonds that impact the tax levy, but there's also tax increment financing bonds, water, sanitary, sewer, and stormwater revenue bonds. So those are issued as GO debt and then paid for by those revenue sources. Alternatively, sometimes we'll do those as SRF loans. Currently this year, based on factors of the market, PFM is recommending we do those as GO debt paid for by the revenue, not SRF loans. It's the cheaper option. And so that's reflected in all 5 years of the projects. We will analyze that every single year. So next year we'll do a full reanalysis. Okay, is SRF more expensive still? Should we be doing GO? So even if you look at a 5th-year project and it shows it as revenue bonds, that may change by the time we get to that project. And as was talked about earlier, loss is also a big funding contributor to maintaining our debt levy. As PFM has done their analysis. We're currently showing that will be estimated at 62.12% of our legal debt capacity. We actually self-impose a lower restriction, and so our self-imposed policy, we'd be at 82.8%. So there's still sufficient capacity to issue more debt if you have the appetite to pay for it. But we're not in a situation where we're coming up on our debt capacity at all. As was talked about earlier, the CIP for fiscal years 27 and 28 have been set to maintain a level or a flat levy of just over $2.67. And that is done through a 50% of our lost revenue going into that. So just over $2.3 million or just under $2.4 million. I would note to maintain that in fiscal 27 and 28, PFM is projecting this might be a good time to switch to their debt model, which is included both in the document as well as an attachment. Just as a highlight, when we talked about that 62%, so our total geo debt at the beginning of fiscal 27 is just over 137 million. And you can see that debt levy percentage goes down each year. We do have a couple of bumps where our actual debt total goes up, but in general, those are also going down about every year. To maintain that, back to where I was, to maintain that 2.67 debt levy, PFM has projected a one-time contribution in fiscal 27 of $136,000, and then a similar contribution in fiscal 28 of $537,000. And essentially that cash balance in the CIP fund is interest earned while the funds are in our account, as well as you can see in prior years, we've been bringing in slightly more than we needed to pay debt those years, and so there's been funds added to that. I can tell you if we go down one more year, we can't sustain that. So fiscal 27 and 28 is sort of that's the mechanism we've found to maintain that level. As we go into outer years, as Mike talked about earlier, we're going to have to look at other mechanisms for balancing that. On the second page of their analysis, they are highlighted in yellow, shows those tax rates, which I will get into here in a second. A couple of highlighted projects, I won't talk about them all, that are really contained in fiscal 27. This is the first debt issuance for phase 1 of the Eastern Merle Hay project. That would then, we would be borrowing the money in July. We'd be starting that project beginning of next calendar year. A number of stormwater projects, a couple of which would have been on the list for a long time. Country Ridge, Green Meadows North, and stabilization along Beaver Creek. We're doing a rehabilitation of our existing pump station along 54th Avenue as part of our water system, replacing a fire engine. A fairly big project is the overlay of 86th Street. The section kind of from 54th to 62nd is the target there. From a trail or parks perspective, replacement of the Foxborough Trail in Green Meadows West, and improvements in Johnston Commons Park that would include some additional pickleball courts. Don't have a demand for those at all. We'd also continue the city's pavement management program and our sidewalk programs as we've done in past years. And then the biggest project is our reconstruction of 62nd Avenue from 54th to Northwest Beaver Drive here just south of City Hall. Mike talked about this earlier, but our initial look at the CIP, PFM's analysis had our debt levy going from 267 up to 355 in 2031. We did make some of those adjustments to try to level it out, particularly if fiscal 29 was a really, really expensive year in our initial draft, and so we tried to level that out. That helped. That gets us down to $3.43 in fiscal 31. What I would note here is, and how we traditionally look at the CIP, we always try to present you as fiscally responsible of a CIP as we can. The projects in fiscal 27 are the ones that are the most important because we're literally going to start the process, have started the process of borrowing that money. And so we'll be going through that approval process in the coming months. That's where the money gets spent, if you will. Fiscal 28 is also super critical because we're going to be working in 27 on the planning for those projects to get ready for those. As you go to 29, 30, and 31, these projects are really a good guide. They're identifying priorities, they're identifying things that we plan to work on, but they're still a guide, and there will be changes, great changes, I'm sure, between now and 2030 when we get there from what we're projecting now. As Mike talked about earlier in the PFM model as well, they tend to be very fiscally conservative. So, higher interest rates, lower growth rates, those kind of things. And so we would hope, as we do this analysis next year, those actual increases in the levy will come down. I'm not going to say they're going to come all the way down and it'll be great and it'll be 267 all across the board. We need to be thinking about that, but know that there's a lot of conservative budgeting done in those numbers. Sort of finalize on future project needs. We've talked about this, but we have a number of studies that are either underway, about to get underway, or nearing completion. I probably missed some, but the streetscape plan, the stormwater management plan, arts and culture plan, space needs studies at the library and the 2 public safety buildings, trail master plan. We've got a few placeholders in there, but we just don't have enough information on a lot of those yet to really fully incorporate them into the CIP. And so just know that there will be some changes going into next year when we have more information. Streetscape is a little bit unique in that the big spend out of those are probably going to be percentages of other projects we're already doing. So you might not see a lot of new projects. We'll just make sure the amounts are adjusted for that 2.5% to account for some streetscaping. All of this is built in ClearGov. Full document, a lot of information, all of the financial analysis is included in there. And then as you get into the capital improvement plan, you can look by year, you can search by departments, you can search by funding source. And then for every project, you can select one. You can pull up all the detailed information, a map, all the cost estimates, funding sources, all those sorts of things. So a wealth of information there. With that, I'll pause and be happy to answer any questions that the council might have.
Council, any questions of Dave?
Mayor, I do have one. Dave, you made a comment and highlighted on one of the spreadsheets. Actually, it was, I guess it's on both of the 2 attachments from PFM, but you had highlighted the surplus deficit of contributions that would be there, one identifying actually next fiscal year, $126,000 deficit, and then the $537,000.
Yep.
And then you referenced something like that's not sustainable. But I also see then that the ending cash balance is just slightly more than $2 million.
So when Carrie ran that, when I was on a call with her, Carrie with PFM, and she slid that calculator down for that next year, we need like $1.8 million so we basically use up all of the surplus.
Okay.
That's where I said it's not that we can't or won't pull from some of that. It's not the only thing we'll be able to do to maintain the flat 267. We'll have to look at lost, as was talked about earlier. We'll have to look at other ways. What I was trying to emphasize there is that's going to help us for a couple of years. It's not an all the time. It's not always going to be there. So we have to be careful.
And there is no, I guess the follow-up question here is, there is no obligation that $2,093,000, that's no magic number that we have to keep a certain percentage in ending cash in that CIP account?
Gotta let Sarah, she's the expert there.
We just have to remain a balance to fully make our next year's debt payments, essentially. So typically your ending balance should be essentially 1/12 of your next year's payment. So throughout the year, you'd have, 1/12, 2/12 up until June for those June 1 payments.
Okay, so we do need to keep some balance in there, but it's not a percentage of the outstanding balance. It's a percentage of it's 1/12 of what our debt payments should be for that year.
Approximately.
Okay. And am I seeing, where on the spreadsheet do I see then what that is? Is that the?
I don't believe that is
I
on
don't
this
think it's
spreadsheet.
on there specifically. I know Carrie was not concerned about the 27, the 28. She was comfortable, we were fine. That wasn't a problem to show that. When she went the next year, she said, I can't do that. So that's where it, but we can double check that amount but pretty confident she was comfortable with that. We're fine with what we're showing in 27 and 28.
Okay. Thank you.
Mayor, I have a question. So the 2.5% that was recommended out of the streetscape study, that's 2.5% of the construction budget for a defined street project. Overlay, I mean,
I don't think
have
the
you
recommendation's that specific. I think we'll probably have to look at that.
We're gonna have, yeah, I was
a
gonna,
case, like, we're gonna go on 86th Street, we're gonna grind down the surface, we're gonna make some patches, and we're gonna overlay it. Probably not even gonna work in the right of way. So will we there spend 2.5%? I don't know that we would, but we can certainly look at
so what my.
project by project.
My thought is, I'd like to hear more about how you're gonna, how you're going to manage that, or,
Matt's
define it.
I know Matt's thought about it a little bit. We've had very introductory,
Okay.
kind of brief conversations of how do we kind of show that going forward.
Right.
I don't know that we have the answers yet, but that's
What I,
thinking, it's on top of everyone's list. So.
so I think it's a great thing to have happen. And I know it's going forward that we're gonna start funding it, but that we have a lack of, we didn't fund the whole trail project along 100th Street, and, and maybe trails wouldn't even have made it in. But what I was going to say is, I would think that you would consider at least a portion of it just goes into the fund that's very well defined of how it's going to plant street trees across the whole community, so that we can afford to, go back to these recent projects and put the landscaping in that needs. Thank you.
Councilmember Martin, your reference to not doing the full trail along 100th Street.
No, I didn't mean that. I meant, I don't know that, so we did 100th Street, south of 62nd, that was all a new street. But then north of 70th, it's a trail. And I meant, I don't know in the definition whether the trail, whatever the construction line item was, whether we're gonna be putting 2.5% into street trees or trees for trails.
And I'm not sure the recommendation coming out of the streetscape plan is that specific. I think some of that's going to be on it. We're going to have to just figure that out as we look at each project.
100%, yeah.
Any other questions for David? This is a public hearing on this item. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the council? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing at 7:31. Do we have a motion to approve resolution number 26-17?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Martin,
Yes.
Ready,
Yes.
Burkhart,
Yes.
Cope,
Yes.
Evans.
Motion passed. Moving on to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Ready,
Yes.
Burkhart,
Yes.
Cope,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on to the non-consent agenda. Item 7A, consider second consideration of ordinance number 1156, amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Johnston, Iowa, 2007, by amending section 106.12 for the purpose of adopting solid waste collection fees to become effective on July 1st, 2026.
Mayor and council, we have made no changes to the ordinance since the last meeting, and we've received no public comments. Staff's recommending approval of the second reading and possible consideration of third and final reading and adoption. Thank you.
Council have any questions of Mike? Not, do we have a motion to approve second consideration of ordinance number 1156?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Burkhart?
Yes.
Coe?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ready?
If,
Motion passed. Do we have any further motions?
I'm really hesitant to waive third reading on fees. I just, from a
Does
principle.
anybody else have an interest? Hearing none. We'll put it on the agenda for next time. Item 7B, consider approval of claims in the amount of $1,032,596.73.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second discussion. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Coe?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ready?
Yeah.
Burkhart?
Yes.
Motion passed. City Administrator staff comments.
I have no comments this evening, Mayor.
Other staff? Seeing,
I can, sorry, I can give you an update. They were working on the water main with a contractor up on Beaver earlier this afternoon. They located the break, put a repair band on it, but there's another break 20 to 30 feet up the road. So they were cutting more road out when I came here, and they were locating the second break to continue on that project. So I'll leave here with that.
okay. Council have any questions? Seeing none? City Council comments. Councilman Evans.
So every day I go south on Beaver to work and north on Beaver home. And almost every day as I'm driving down Beaver and I'm looking along the fence and I'm thinking, God, there's got to be a way to clean up that trash. And I'm thinking, I can take my side-by-side off. No, I'll get arrested. But then today on the way home, there was a Johnston Public Works pickup and two guys pulling the trash off the fence. And it just made my millennium. And I just wanted to say thank you, whether it was grounds or Public Works, but
The trees are next on the agenda out of that fence, all those little scrub trees that are in the wire.
What fence?
CIWW owns it, and I said I got the trash today, the little trees are next, so.
amazing.
Councilman
looking at it.
Evans, what fence are we talking about?
Along Beaver,
Yeah?
so starting at the power plant and going south,
On the east side?
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
From the, from the transmission.
Blown in
whatever
trash.
It's not a power plant, it's a, what is it? It's a
Substation.
Substation.
Yeah, yeah. But it's been looking a little rough, and there's been some good stuff out there, some 5-gallon buckets and some siding and.
Oh, 5 gallon hail. I mean, everybody could use, dude, you didn't stop and, you should just bring it in here, we'll pass it
Okay,
around.
next.
Last
There's
spring,
a
Rotary-
plushy pillow on North Glen Drive.
Is
that
there?
It's been there for a while, in case anybody wants it, that one.
I'm gonna need an address on that.
Last spring, Rotary cleaned up that, and the
Valentine's
number
Day's coming
of,
up. I could-
of different alcoholic bottles that I picked up was amazing, along with a garage door. He cleaned out a full-size garage door.
Along Beaver.
Yep.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, okay. We do have a couple garage door vendors that operate.
We do. Councilman Reddy.
I passed, thank you.
Councilman Pope.
I just, in preparation for our next budget discussion, which in addition to this discussion about impact, maybe adding additional police officers, I just would like to, Mike, if you would circulate the 5-year staffing plan prior to that via email, so that we've got that and we can kind of digest that. I always get hesitant about thinking about staffing without kind of seeing it in the big picture. And I think that 5-year staffing plan, having that, even though that isn't necessarily the purpose of that discussion to review that, just to have that again prior to that would be helpful. So I appreciate that.
Councilman Burkhart.
I'm going to extend a couple of thank yous. Since last we met, if I'm not mistaken, I think I plugged like crazy the show choir competition. I'm grateful to those that were able to participate and even though, and attend, but also even those who just wished warm thoughts, because we needed all those warm thoughts just to make sure that we held that event. But a couple other things. City staff, I know preparation for follow-up for tonight took a lot of time and a lot of scouring of that budget, as if the initial budget did not take enough time for you. And I really appreciate your attentiveness to try to get to the bottom of our questions, or at least provide more information between last Thursday and tonight. And so that was very much appreciated, and I do look forward to continuing to get more follow-up in that regard. The other thank you is extended, and he has heard it, but I also want to share it so that you all hear it and moreover our residents hear it. I filled in and served in my kind of fill-in duties for CIWW last Wednesday. I'm the alternate on that for Councilmember Cope, and Councilmember Cope did an outstanding job of kind of preparing me for that meeting. And I don't always get that preparation as an alternate, but I really appreciated it. And I also appreciated it because there was a fully fledged member of CIWW. It was their first meeting, not their first meeting as far as overall in general terms, but also not the first meeting of their community. And yet their community had not prepared them as well as Councilmember Cope prepared me. And it was very obvious and actually rather contentious that member was asking the questions they were. So nothing dramatic, but I just really appreciate that type of forethought and leadership that you were willing to spend some time with me when you knew you weren't going to be able to fulfill even just that 1 hour or so, so that I could represent Johnston appropriately. So thanks very much.
Well, reclaiming my time, I had meant to thank you for being able to fill in for me, because that was very helpful and it was an important discussion. And so being able to have that alternate and being available to do it, I really appreciate. So
Thanks, Tom.
Councilwoman Martin,
No, I have no comments.
I'm going to pass this evening as well, so. Is there anything else that to come before the council this evening? If not, we are adjourned.